BITKEY website, bitkey.world, is power and control, and I love it. It is the best and most secure way to keep your Bitcoin out of the hands of hackers and scammers, and to keep anyone from freezing or seizing your account for Bitcoin that you're planning to hold for the long haul. I was reminded of this week because I was scrolling back through all of the Bitcoin transactions that I have ever made, trying to calculate how much free Bitcoin I've ever given to people. I estimated somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000, but I was curious what that exact number was. Well, while I was scrolling back through it, when I got to 2023, 2024, mainly 2023, when I was moving Bitcoin around for my nonprofit and all of that, and I was migrating Bitcoin out of major exchanges onto BITKEY for the long haul, I was reminded of the incredible hassle it was to get control of my own Bitcoin when it was on centralized exchanges. As you can imagine, I had accumulated Bitcoin, a fair amount, not a huge amount by most people's standards. I'm not a whale, I'm not an OG or anything like that, but, enough that it would trigger the standard, anti-scam, anti-fraud prevention measures of major exchanges. So here I am, and I'm trying to move my Bitcoin to a more secure location. And all of the memories came back of just the incredible hassle it was to try to get my own Bitcoin back into my possession, because the major exchange I was working with, which I won't name, it's just a major exchange, the major exchange I was working with really did not want me to take that Bitcoin off their platform, primarily because they were worried that it was fraudulent, that my account had somehow been hacked. And there was just absolutely nothing I could do other than wait weeks and weeks and weeks on end for them finally to clear all of the insane hurdles and to try to prove that I was who I said I was, and that the account was really mine, and that, yes, indeed, I did want to transfer the vast majority of my Bitcoin off of the platform. It was just a royal pain. I mean, on the phone for hours with people, offering to do live FaceTime calls, live video calls to prove that I was really me. But, of course, none of that met the protocol. And the protocol was, of course, you got to, go through their systems and processes. And it's not as simple as just saying, look, I'm the real me. Look me up online. I served in the House of Representatives. My picture's all over the internet. I'm a person who's uniquely difficult to fake, just like anybody whose picture's all over the internet, including on a bunch of government websites and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, so I was reminded how amazing BITKEY is. BITKEY is a hardware device that has all sorts of backups and built in to make sure you never lose your Bitcoin, even if you lose your phone, even if you lose the BITKEY device itself. There's backups built in to recover your Bitcoin, and it puts the Bitcoin completely in your own power and control. And most importantly, nobody can freeze your account, seize your account, block your account. It's just an incredible way to hold Bitcoin where it's absolutely secure, but nobody's standing between you and your Bitcoin. And I was reminded, since I, moved everything over back in, I believe it was 2023. Anyway, once I got everything moved over, incredible. I've never had another headache. I've never been on an, 800 number hold line. I've never been told to resubmit my ID and my passport for the 27th time. I think at one point I actually counted and I had submitted my ID documents 16 times. 1-6. It's a lot of times to resubmit your ID documents. And every time you try to unlock your Bitcoin, they're like, we're going to need you to authenticate your ID. I'm like, I've done that 16 times. My account has not changed. The access has not changed. I'm still accessing it from the same IP addresses. Like, why do I need to authenticate my identity yet again? Again, BITKEY sidesteps all of that and says, hey, we're just going to do security with a completely different model where there's not a centralized exchange standing in the way that can block your transaction, and do that in a way that keeps your Bitcoin out of the hands of hackers and scammers. So BITKEY is by far the best way to store your Bitcoin for the long haul. Nothing is even close. There's all sorts of services out there. For the online services, for example, on Coinbase, you can use Coinbase Vault. But at the end of the day, your permission to access your Bitcoin is controlled by Coinbase. You can use River. River has a feature called Force Field. Once again, great feature, just like Coinbase Vault, great feature. But at the end of the day, it is entirely up to them whether you have access to your Bitcoin. So if you do not have a BitKey and you just, for whatever reason, refuse to get one or refuse to use one, please at least use the Vault feature on Coinbase or the force field feature on River. But even better, buy yourself a BitKey for like $99 or $150. It's on sale sometimes for $99, but normally the price is $150. Buy it, move most or all of your Bitcoin over to BitKey. Just make sure when you set it up, you have at least one recovery contact set up. Setting up a recovery contact makes sure that you can still get your Bitcoin, even if you lose your phone and your BitKey device simultaneously. There's still a backup option to get your Bitcoin back, even if you lose everything. But you have to have at least one recovery contact set up, and it will tell you that in the user interface. When you set it up, it'll say you need to set up a recovery contact. So make sure you do that. But and I'm happy to be your recovery contact if you and I know each other, and if we've met in the real world and I actually know your identity and can authenticate that you are you. Obviously, if I don't know you, I can't authenticate that you are you. But if I do know you and I can authenticate you, you are you, I'm happy to serve as a recovery contact. That does not give, the recovery contacts have no access to your Bitcoin. They don't see your balance. All they can do is authenticate that you are you in a situation where you've lost your phone and you've lost your BitKey device, and the BitKey service wants to make sure that you're not a hacker or a scammer. So they require a recovery contact that's been configured previously to validate that you are you. And that way, as long as that happens, they don't ask questions. They don't ask who you set up, how you knew them. They don't ask anything. They just said, hey, the person you set up as a recovery contact, you can have up to 3, I believe, 3 recovery contacts. The person you set up as a recovery contact authenticated that you are you. That's good enough. You were the one who picked them as a recovery contact. If they can authenticate that you are you, then they can have access to the unlock feature for you to get access to your Bitcoin. That does not give a recovery contact the ability to access your Bitcoin. It only gives them the ability to give you a code for you to unlock your Bitcoin, just to make sure you're not a hacker or a scammer. So the whole system with BitKey is absolutely brilliant. It's genius. It's something so good that only the company Block, who makes the Square payment terminals, they make Cash App, all of that, they are the company behind BitKey. And really, I can't imagine anybody else having done a better job and a more thorough job of coming up with the perfect Bitcoin solution. And the reason they came up with it is Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Block/Square. He was the founder of Twitter before he sold it to Elon Musk. He had 2 companies, Twitter, which he sold to Elon Musk, and the other was his payments company, which again runs Cash App and the Square payment terminals, and the company is called Block, as in blockchain like Bitcoin. So anyway, he tasked his team with coming up with this, and they did a genius job. It's absolutely brilliant in every way. It's complete power, and you will never again have to worry about hackers and scammers, and you won't have to worry about getting locked out or, having your account flagged for suspicious activity or something, and then not being able to move your Bitcoin or spend your Bitcoin whenever you want. And even with BitKey, you can set up a daily limit. So, if you have $10,000 of Bitcoin, you can set it up where you can move $200 or $500 or whatever number you want per day without the permission or without having to touch the BitKey device to the back of your phone to prove that you physically have it, which of course that is how we know hackers and scammers are not using it, because they cannot physically touch something to the back of your phone. They don't have the BitKey device. They can't unlock it with their fingerprint the way you can. They can't touch it to the back of your phone the way you can. So anyway, BitKey device, highly recommended. It's genius, and I was reminded again what a godsend the BitKey device is as I was looking through old transactions and remembering what a nightmare it is to try to get Bitcoin off of a centralized exchange if you have amounts above whatever limits trigger their super, be super careful, be super worried levels of that. So, and interestingly enough, centralized exchanges, when they do get hacked, the hackers always seem to have no trouble getting the Bitcoin when an exchange gets hacked. Yet, if your account gets hacked, somehow they seem to be able to clear it out right away. So, whatever the anti-fraud, anti-theft, anti-hacking, anti-scam procedures that centralized exchanges have, they tend to work. They tend to work against you when you're trying to get your own Bitcoin out, but somehow not stop the hackers and scammers from getting your Bitcoin if they compromise your account. Now, maybe those things are working great, which is why more accounts don't get compromised and cleaned out, but they always seem to find a way. So anyway, here to help. Let me know if I can be of assistance, and BitKey is by far the best place to store your Bitcoin for the long haul. Highly recommended.